So we are back to our book Win Bigly, and we are on page number 90, President Trump's Talent Stack. In my book, How to Fail at Almost Everything and Still Win Big, I talk about the concept of a talent stack. A talent stack is a collection of skills that work well together and make the person with those skills unique and valuable. For example, a computer programmer who also knows how to do good user interface design would be more valuable than one who does not. The power of the talent stack idea is that you can intelligently combine ordinary talents together to create extraordinary value. The key concept here is that the talents in the stack work well with one another. If you acquire the right combination of ordinary talents, you don't need to be the world's best at any of them. For example, I am not a great artist, and I have never taken a traditional class in writing. I'm not the funniest person in my social circle, and I'm not a great business mind either. But few people in the world have a complete talent stack as valuable as mine. By being good enough in each of those individual talents, I can be a famous syndicated cartoonist and enjoy an ideal career. Whenever you see people succeeding beyond your expectations, look for the existence of a well-engineered talent stack. Case in point, few people thought Donald Trump would win the presidency in 2016. Part of the reason for that wrongness is that people don't understand the power of persuasion. Trump is the best persuader I've ever seen. A big reason for his persuasion effectiveness is that he has accumulated a remarkable talent stack. If you were to look at any one of his talents, you would not be impressed. And that's what fooled observers. When they were evaluating his chances, they saw a candidate who was not extraordinarily good at anything in particular. He wasn't the smartest person in the race. He wasn't the most experienced. He wasn't the best communicator in traditional terms. For more than half a century, for more than half of the country, he wasn't even likable. But it didn't matter. What he did have is one of the best talent stacks you will ever see. The combination of his skills is truly special. Let's take a look at President Trump's talent stack. Publicity. Donald Trump understands the value of publicity, and he knows how to get it. He has spent decades creating controversies and attracting attention to himself and the Trump brand. He isn't the best publicity expert in the world, but most people would agree he's very good. Reputation. Trump has carefully nurtured a reputation as a business person who knows how to get things done. His reputation serves him well whenever he enters a new field. His track record makes people feel optimistic about his chances, and that gives him an advantage. People expect him to do well in the future because he has done well in the past. This sort of reputation doesn't happen on its own. Trump has used his skill to create that reputation. You might call it branding. Strategy. Trump probably isn't the best strategic thinker in the world, but obviously he is good at making strategic decisions. We saw lots of examples during the election, including his decision to use social media more than a traditional advertising approach. He also campaigned more than Hillary Clinton in the swing states that ended up making all the difference. In hindsight, his strategy was solid. Negotiating. Trump literally wrote the book on negotiating, called The Art of the Deal. Actually, his co-author, Tony Schwartz, wrote most of it, but obviously it reflected Trump's negotiating preferences. Persuasion. Trump is the best persuader I have ever seen, but much of that effectiveness is related to his total talent stack. His mastery of the tools of persuasion is fairly ordinary. You will learn most of those tools in this book. Public speaking. Trump is an entertaining and provocative public speaker, but no one would say he is the world's best orator. He's far better than average, and that's good enough for the talent stack. sense of humor. Trump has a good sense of humor, and that's a potential tool of persuasion. A sense of humor makes people like you, and it makes you look smarter. Trump isn't as funny as professional humorists, but he's funny enough. Quick on his feet. It's not easy to look relaxed and mentally sharp in public when all eyes are on you, but it's something you can learn. Trump probably has some natural talent and mental quickness, but when you add that to all of his practice at being a public figure, it's a strong talent. Thick-skinned. Trump's critics like to label him thin-skinned because he often attacks his critics. But counterattacking is good persuasion. It tells people that being his friend is better than being his critic. So while Trump looks thin-skinned on the 2D checkerboard, he's actually super hardened against criticism because he has endured a lifetime of it. When he ran for president, he had to know the abuse would be 10 times worse than anything he had experienced before then. You don't sign up for that kind of abuse unless you know you can handle the shaming. Eventually, Trump can. Evidently Trump can. It's a valuable skill and one you can learn. High energy. The best persuaders bring the most energy to the topic. Our brains interpret high energy as competence and leadership, even when it isn't. Trump has a natural high energy, and he never lets you forget it. Size and appearance. Trump is tall, and we humans are primed by biology and our sexist society to see tall male figures as leaders. Trump also has a distinctive look with his stern face and his unusual haircut. His physicality makes him more persuasive, both because of his size and because you can't stop looking at his hair. The things you remember and think about the most rise in importance in your mind. One look at Trump in his business suit with his height, his stern expression, and his unusual haircut tells you he's important. And Trump knows branding, so he never lets us see him in casual clothing during the campaign for president. Smart. As far as I can tell, Trump is far smarter than the average citizen. On top of that, he has deep experience across a number of different fields, so his intelligence is well-rounded. Trump's talent stack is so strong that I believe he could make almost any basket of policies sound good to the public. I will go so far as to say that Trump could have run as a Democrat, embraced Bernie Sanders' entire platform, and won the election in that way. The popular interpretation of Trump, the popular interpretation of how Trump won is that he understood the American people and devised policies that they wanted. My filter says the opposite. It says Trump convinced the public that his policies were the ones they should care about the most, and so they did. Obviously, every voter is different, and one variable doesn't explain an election. But my point is that persuasion was more important to the outcome than policies. We just perceive it to be the other way around. Remember the two important elements of filters. They should make you happy, and they should do a good job of predicting the future. My filter predicted that Trump would soften his hard-line positions on a number of topics. Once he got into the general election, and he did. He even went so far as to reverse the key policy platform that got him nominated. He went from a position of mass deportation of undocumented immigrants to one in which he wants to deport only the ones who committed additional crimes after entering the country. At one point, he said in an interview that women who get illegal abortions should be punished. The very next day, he reversed his position. At one point, he talked about punishing the families of terrorists, but that idea went away too. If you think Trump's policies got him elected, you have to explain why his positions substantially changed during the campaign and he still won. My filter explains it perfectly. Trump is so persuasive that policies didn't matter. People voted for him even as his policies were murky and changing. Another filter on the election says Trump won because he was the change candidate, and the change candidate has an advantage. But all of the Republican candidates represented a huge change from the Obama presidency. And prior to Election Day, few experts were predicting that Trump's message of change would win. I remind you that filters are not intended as windows to reality. Our brains did not evolve to understand reality. We're all running different movies in our heads. All that matters is whether or not your filter keeps you happy and does a good job of predicting. In my experience, the persuasion filter does both of those things better than the alternatives. All right, that's the end for today. Tomorrow we'll talk about Trump's Rosie O'Donnell moment, if you guys remember that. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe. If you didn't see the rest of it, go back to the beginning. And if you want more, Scott Adams, the author, he does a live stream every morning at 7 a.m. on the West Coast, 10 a.m. on the East Coast, 9 in Chicago. Have a good one. Like, subscribe, comment.